Hello, my divine being, and welcome to this week's episode of Confessions of a New Age Goddess. As always, I'm the New Age Goddess herself, Melissa. Joining me today is Talia Joy. Talia is a manifestation mentor and intuitive development teacher. So, Talia, welcome to the pod.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yay.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Happy to have you. So, Talia, where in the world are you joining us from?
I am from Vancouver Island, which is a little island off the west coast of Canada. So, Canadian and island girl.
Ooh, that interesting combo, two for one.
Yeah.
Love it. So, Talia, could you kind of tell the audience a little bit more about what you do and all that fun stuff?
Definitely. So I am a manifestation mentor, as you said, and within that, there's a lot that goes into manifestation. So I also teach intuitive development and uncovering your soul's purpose or your soul's callings, which I'll touch on that today as we go through the episode. But yeah, so I'm a manifestation mentor. I've been doing this for about 7 years. I'm also a mom of three. Three children, so many. Yeah, I live on the west coast of Canada. And so I just love supporting people into supporting them to create the life that they're meant for is really the best way to say it. Is I believe that our soul's on a journey. And as we tune into kind of what we're meant for and what our purpose is, we learn how to co-create and manifest the things that we want, the life that we want. So I know we're going to dive into all that juicy stuff, but that's just sort of a little bit about me.
Okay, yeah, no, that's very helpful. And then kind of how, really what is your story? How did you even get into this line of work? Because it is very unique.
Mhm.
Just, how did you even fall into it?
Yeah. So I was born on a smoky November day, but I was from the time I was young, I always felt different. And I think that like looking back, I'm a deep thinker and I love to look back and love to, see those connections. And I always grew up feeling very different. I was always very sensitive. The amount of times I've been told you're too sensitive. And so I was just different. I was left-handed and I had curly hair and I just felt like I never belonged. And so that started this feeling of separation when I was really young. And then when I was in grade 5 and then again in grade 9, I was really severely bullied. And so I feel like that just damaged my self-worth right from the beginning. I always felt different. I felt like I didn't belong and then I was bullied. And so I had this feeling of just being lost from the time I was young, and I was bullied for my weight. I was told I was fat, and that was another way I always felt different. I was a little bit bigger as a kid. And so when I went through my teenage years and my 20s, I really got into dieting because I thought that if I lost weight, I'd be more worthy. Everyone would love me, all that good stuff. And so it started out with dieting and exercising, and I lost weight, and it kept getting more and more extreme to try to keep up with it, and eventually led to an eating disorder that took over. Well, it feels like it's been there since the beginning, but it was a good 15 years of where I was really lost, very obsessive and calorie counting and exercising several times a day and all of this. And basically, I got myself to a place where I just hated to be in my skin, to be in my life, to be in my head. On the outside, it looked like I was really together. I had friends and I had boyfriends and I was funny and I seemed to be so carefree. But inside, it was this life of torture. And I started drinking and doing drugs because my world was just so overwhelming in my mind. Everything was focused around food and my weight and my body, and it just was torture. So one day, right in the thick of it, I was restricting and obsessive exercising and all that. And then that led to bulimia, just getting more and more to the point where I realized I couldn't not eat. So what else can I do? And it, blossomed into bulimia. And so one day I had this absolute rock bottom moment where I just had this knowing that I was meant for more. And so as much as I always grew up insecure, I always knew I was meant for something big. Even my name Talia, like my mom's like, I gave you a name that would be, I can see your name in lights. And I felt it. I felt deep down like I was meant for something huge. So there was this realization of I've created this hell that I'm living in, but I know I'm meant for so much more. And so it got more and more uncomfortable. And that's that spiritual or energetic disconnect where it's like, I am not who I want to be. not living the life that I want to live. And so I literally had this moment of just feeling so tortured, and I just broke down and I like fell to the floor, like your total rock bottom moment. And I was just crying and begging, like, how do I get out of this? And at that point, it was like, how do I get out of this eating disorder? This, you know, sort of all these things I've created in my life, the dependencies and just always coping and all this stuff. And when I broke down, I had this moment where this voice came forward, and now I know it's my intuition, which is why I'm so passionate to teach about it. But this voice came forward and it said, learn to love yourself and the rest will fall into place.
Yes.
And I didn't even fully know what that meant. I'm learning more and more, always a student. I learn more and more about what that truly means. But at the time, it was like, love yourself and eat food and exercise from love, and you'll be able to have the body you want or the life you want. And that's kind of as far as I could receive in that moment. But right there, first of all, I went, what was that voice? And second of all, it was like, love myself. Like if I could eat from love, it just opened up all these
Mhm.
thoughts. Imagine eating from love. Imagine exercising from love. Imagine, being motivated in my day through love, not punishment and drill sergeant and ego. So it was this huge turning point. And from literally, it was one of those times from that moment forward, I first of all looked at food and I was like, okay, what would the version of myself that loves myself, what would I eat? And I started recognizing that like I would eat, healthier food, but also I'd allow myself to have a treat. I wouldn't get hard on myself and down. And it just started this whole life of being intuitively led. So coupled with that, I also had the thought in that moment, imagine leading your life through intuition. And I kind of laughed. I was like, I don't even really know what that would look like. Like, could you actually, like, how would you do life? And now that's completely how I live, which I always look back and I think it was funny at that point. I couldn't even fathom it, but I wanted it. And it was intriguing. And it was a spark of source. It was this spark that was like, that feels like it would be really good. No idea how to do it, but I feel like I'm onto something. So really that changed my relationship, and lots of things changed after that. The way I was eating, the way I was exercising, I leaned more into yoga rather than hardcore boot camps. I think there's a time and a place for everything, but everything turned to more love. And I started to heal my relationship with food and my body. And I had done eating disorder counseling for almost a year at that point, and it hadn't really done it significant. And the rapid rate at which I started healing, I started diving more into self-development and spiritual development, and kind of just everything started getting a lot better. That's kind of the glossy version. Of course, there was ups and downs, but really that was a huge turning point in my life. So to kind of fast forward, as I really was starting to heal, I realized I wanted to help other women that were suffering with food in their body. And so I went to school and I became a nutrition consultant. And as I was sitting there across from people, I wanted to lean into intuition. I wanted to lean into the limiting beliefs and the subconscious blocks and all of that. And I started realizing that what I had to teach was so much bigger, and my license would only let me kind of give them quinoa recipes and talk about the benefits of kale. And I was just meant for so much more. So eventually I gave up my license and focused on intuitive eating. And I started a business called Food Buddha. And I did that for probably about 4 years. And I helped people with intuitive eating. And then once again, I was called to go bigger. And I was like, we got to talk about the law of attraction. And that's so much of what creates our reality, and what it really takes to make change on the inside. And I started again getting kind of bored with just quinoa recipes and smoothies and always trying to bring it back to food. I'm like, but it's so much bigger. It's spirit and it's your guides and it's your intuition. So it kind of just kept opening, and pivoted my business again. And now in the last couple of years, I've just full on leaned into spiritual teachings and intuitive development. And I have clients that do suffer with food and body image and all that, but it's the same as if someone's trying to grow their business, or someone's trying to find love, or just trying to be happy and healthy and, their best self. So now what I teach kind of encompasses it all, and whatever you're dealing with, we can help you, because it's about your spiritual connection and really understanding manifestation and the law of attraction. So that's kind of how I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I like how your story is so layered. You told, kind of your own story, what you were struggling with, how you kind of moved past it. and that you realize that even your healing as well as other people's healing is not a one size fits all, and you try different things and they were all still guiding you to what you're doing ultimately right now. So they were all very important. It's good knowledge to have, you know, in your back pocket to use right now, but it doesn't have to be just that one way. You know, you made it your own and you continually expanded. Like you even said, I know there was so much more. You know, it was that whole process, because I've seen it myself that some people just say, oh, well, this is working for me a little bit, and this is just this one thing, and I'm not going to try anything else because this is working a little bit, and they're not willing to expand. So even just having that mindset that already is going to lead you to the ultimate highest level path, if you will. So I was really intrigued by that. And even when you were speaking, before you even said the word, when you said about eating and intuition, I'm like, oh, intuitive eating. She's probably going to start talking about that, because yes, when you do it from anything, eating's a good example, but when you do it from that sense of love, it changes everything. And it's so much easier. It's so much easier. Like, yeah, like I even tell people, okay, so when I read the Akashic Records, you know, that is really what I've coined it as, is looking at yourself or the person whose records you're in through love colored glasses, because now you're seeing yourself, even maybe the parts of you that you don't, you know, want to show the world, through that sense of love. And then judgment falls away, the ego falls away. This is really the whole thing. And yes, it can help you with your diet, or it can help you with relationships, but this is really the whole root of it. And kind of like, yeah, once you get that realization, then it's really applicable to a lot of different aspects of your life, I feel.
Yeah, because source is love, right? Like that's the thing. And it's funny that you say that, because I always say, seeing the world through love, through the lens of love.
Yes.
And so you said like love colored glasses, or, you know, it's the same thing. It's the lens of love, which is the lens of source, which is why I love doing what I do now, because now it's like, I just want to access source perspective for you, instead of trying to figure it out and micromanage and all the physical steps and counting calories or trying to save XYZ. When we can look at it through the lens of source, source is also saying, unlimited possibility.
Yes.
And you are in the driver's seat, and what you focus on is not only possible, it's what you're meant for. Like what you desire is what you're meant for in this life. That's why you desire it, right? Two people don't have the same dream home or whatever, dream mate or anything, because what you desire is meant for you. So I think the more that you recognize, like, yeah, I want that body. Yeah, I want that business, and it's meant for me, and anything's possible, and there must be a way. And it just keeps picking up that positive momentum, instead of like, how the hell am I going to do this? And I'm not there yet. And, you know, it's so contractive or restrictive. So yeah, looking at life through the lens of love has been, you know, to boil it down to one thing, that's it. Really.
Yeah, totally. And it sounds so simplistic, but how many of us really do that consciously on a regular basis? You know, there's so many people that once you kind of give them that perspective, once they really realize it does shift things, whether they're cognizant of it or not, because you're doing it more sometimes even on a subconscious level. You know, there's times where you're like, oh, I'm not even going to apply for that job because I just don't feel worthy. You just applying for that job because you feel worthy could make all the difference. And it's this minor tweaking that leads to bigger things, for sure. And I also like that you mentioned discomfort. Discomfort led you to a lot, and then you later said desire, because I think those two go hand in hand. Yes, you know what you want. I think everyone knows what they want. That's the easy stuff, or at least they know it to some degree. But the discomfort is what really moves you. And I think when you know, keep getting maybe like fired from jobs or whatever it may be, things just don't really pan out for you, then you're inspired to move because maybe you have to. And then you're going to want to go in the direction that you most desire.
Totally.
Okay. And then how, you know, what really intrigued me about the work that you do How does this relate to quantum manifestation? I know everything really happens on a quantum level, and I feel like even a lot more people are waking up to that, especially lately. So how do you connect the two, what you do to quantum manifestation?
Totally. Yeah. So I really I love the law of attraction. I think that it is such a big thing for us to understand, or important thing for us to understand, because it's the way that life works. Life is responding to us, and we attract who it is that we are being, right? So I know that you know this, but a lot of people, they saw The Secret, and it's like you attract what you say. You attract what you say you want, but you don't attract what you say you want, or even what you want. You attract who you are being in this moment, because this moment is all we have. This is the leading edge of creation. This is the leading edge of manifestation. What I am being right now is what I am manifesting, right? So to really understand that that's how law of attraction works, and what we are putting out in this moment is who we are becoming and what we are manifesting. One day I realized I had this idea in the shower, where all great ideas happen. And I was thinking about, like, it was something maybe about my business. It was like, how do I get there? And I had this realization, like, holy crap, if I could just be the person who has already achieved that, if I could just be the successful business owner right now, the law of attraction is bouncing off of me in this second. So if I could be it, and this was like theoretical, if I could just be it right now, be joyful, be abundant, be in love, be confident, be abundant. I already said that. That was a big thing at the time. How do I get that? Or how do I make money, right? If I could be it right now, without a doubt, 100%, I would be able to start manifesting it. And it would open up that energy of, what does the successful Talia do? What does the, healthy Talia do? And so it was this seed that was planted that literally made me go like, oh my God, while I was in the shower going, holy crap, I've cracked a code. Hang on a second. So I started this work, and I started experimenting on my one-on-one clients and people around me that were really open. And it's called the Her work. And that's the base of a lot of what I do. That's my podcast is called the Awakening Her podcast. And her, it could be him or them or whatever you identify with. That's that version of yourself that is already doing it, that is already living the life. So basically, how this comes in is, with the quantum field, all possibilities are available to us. There is a version of me who is anxious. There's a version of me who is in scarcity. There's a version of me that is powerful. There's a version of me that is a goddess and is successful. And there's all the versions. And if I can tap into the version of myself that has the successful business, or is super happy, or is joyful, then, as I said, that's what I'm manifesting right now. But then it led me to, okay, what would she do? And that's the whole thing, is awakening her, that version of yourself that already is living the life you want, and then being from that place. Doesn't mean perfect, but how would she feel standing in front of the mirror? What would she say to herself in the mirror? What would she choose to eat? How would she talk to herself when she had the dessert? How would she treat this client that fell through?
Hmm.
It started to just open up, like, ooh, the successful version of myself. If a client fell through, I'd go, okay, well, it's not meant to be right now. I send you love. It's all good, right? How would I eat? I would lean much more on plant foods, and I'd be really forgiving and in love when I chose chocolate or I chose whatever else. So, short form is the quantum manifestation is like, if you can be that version now, even just for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. And with clients, I say, like, get into the posture, like sit there, maybe shoulders rolled back, standing up tall, smile on your face. And if you can hold on to that for just a short amount of time, we know the 17-second rule with manifestation, that's when momentum starts picking up. You start magically, like, that's where it gets magic, start attracting new circumstances, because all of a sudden you are showing up as a new person. You are showing up as a new version of yourself. And then whatever it is you're doing, it's reflected in that. If I showed up as the version of myself here on this episode that was worried and not enough, I'd be talking very different. But when I show up as the name in lights version of myself, I am magnetic, and what I say speaks to people. So it practically ripples out into success, but it also energetically and magically has you attracting more because of the law of attraction and because of the way energy works. So that's kind of the short version, even though it's long, of quantum manifestation and how I teach it.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense to me because you kind of have to first explain what it is. Then, yes, to your point, how you teach it, how it relates to the type of work that you do to really get that well-rounded perspective of it. And the thing that always resonated with me with quantum anything was it helps the skeptics understand a little bit better too, because it does have that science aspect. Even when you say magnetic, then they're like, oh, ding, 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 I can kind of see what this person's saying. And yeah, I like to kind of explain that to, some non-believers too, just so that they just can wrap their head around it. Because it is a complex thing. It's easy to a degree, but once you really see how layered it is, then it gets a little bit more complicated and you kind of have to feel into it. And yeah, that again can fit for so many different things. Hey, I want a romantic partner. I better love myself. I better think I'm great, because why would someone else think I'm great if I don't even think so? So yeah, it can relate to a lot of different themes. And yeah, just to kind of bounce off of that, there's so many different modalities out there. There's so many ways to look at things. How did you really know that quantum manifestation, being an intuitive mentor, was really your life purpose, what you wanted to bring to the world?
Yeah, it's annoying to a lot of people that are searching for their purpose, but it's like, I just knew that thing I was saying, how I just knew I was meant for more. I've also always been someone who helps other people, who's wanted to help other people. I remember in grade 4, I took one of my mom's like astrology books and I set up at my desk, like at recess, and I would give people astrology readings. They would tell me like their birthday and I'd go and look it up and tell them their crystal and their, plant and what sign they were and all of that. And people loved it. And looking back, I kind of laugh at that going, wow, the seeds were planted really early for the stuff that I'm here to do. But I knew that as I moved through stuff, it was like I couldn't not help other people. So I had friends that were also suffering with body image issues, because at the point when I was really suffering, it was where the media was all about like the super skinny celebrities. And like, it just felt like in my lifetime, it was an all-time high to be skinny and to be focused on what Jennifer Aniston did to lose weight or whatever. So as I moved through things, I just wanted to help friends. I wanted to help family. I wanted to help anyone who would listen. And I would do personal development seminars. And I had this drive in me to come back and tell people what I learned. And isn't that so crazy? It's like, I always just had this teacher thing in me. And so I think that was a big part of it. Also, as I started stepping into like getting out of healing and more into like the rising part, I realized my intuition is insane. And it's always been that way. I always feel the room. I feel people. I pick up on things. A lot of us do. A lot of us empaths, highly sensitive people. But I decided to own it. And I decided to, in sessions with people in the very beginning, I'd just be like, did your mom suffer with body image issues? And they're like, yeah, oh my God, how did you know that? And I just started like dabbling and realizing that I've got some, that awareness can really help people. And I guess as I started developing it over time, I learned more about communicating with spirit guides and that call and answer, ask and receive type relationship. And it just kept going. But the short answer is that I always knew. And every time I overcame something, I just wanted to go share it. I didn't care if I was being paid or not. I just wanted to help other people. And that was really early on. I think that's a huge sign.
No, that's very helpful, because I think, yeah, the whole life purpose thing, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I like so many things, and how do I know which one is in highest alignment to what I'm supposed to do? But yeah, it's that knowing feeling. And sometimes it is trying on a lot of different hats and seeing which one fits the best. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's trial and error sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like I gave myself permission to do that. And me when I was really young, I love my dad, we're super close. And he said, he was talking about his careers, and he said something about like most adults change careers like 10 times in their life. And I was really young, and I don't know why, it was like like he said that, and then it was planted in my mind to go like, it's okay to pivot, to pivot, to pivot. And I know I'm going to pivot again, and I'm going to pivot again. And that's cool. That's good. That's actually you following the breadcrumbs of source, less about that you have one destination and more just give yourself the space. If you feel like you want to be a teacher or want to have a business, give yourself the space to like be creative and be inspired and just go with it and see where it leads you.
Exactly. And I think it's also, trying to wipe away that fear too, because pivoting, that can be scary for a lot of people, because, oh, now I'm taking a risk. Now I'm doing something I haven't done before. So I think that's a big part of it. And also, I know I'm not the same person I was in my 20s as I am in my 30s. So I would hope that, my business would evolve with me, because if it's not, that means I'm not evolving. If I learn something new, obviously I'm going to add that as a service, just little things like that. So yeah, I think that's important as well. And you did let us know kind of what you offer, but what does really working with you look like from a client's perspective?
Yeah, totally. So first of all, I feel like I do group programs and group experiences, and then I have one-on-one clients. And I feel like those are slightly different, because when I show up as teacher, it's like this group container that is just magical. So I have a program called Awakened Intuition, where we look at activating and awakening your intuition, intuitive types, how to use it, what blocks you, all that stuff. And I have one called Empowered Empath, which is like manifesting for empaths and really opening up your power and, grounding and protecting yourself and just basically becoming a magical empath instead of disempowered. So when I'm in those containers, I'm teaching tools and tips, and we have back and forth. And there's this whole beautiful group environment, which I just love. I think that that's a huge part of what I'm meant to do, is bring people together and teach. When I do one-on-one, it's much more intimate. My one-on-one clients, we do like voice memos Monday to Friday back and forth. We have 2 calls a month, and it's much more about, when I'm with someone, especially one-on-one, I can see and sense your essence. Like when you're telling me what you want, I can just see that it's all possible. And I often say to people, like, you are so much more powerful than you know, or magnetic. So my job is really to communicate what source wants you to know and all that stuff, but for you to believe in yourself, believe in the highest possibility. And I'm offering, intuitive guidance, practical tips, rituals, and all sorts of things that help you every day to ground down. So I have lots of rituals and meditations and practices that I offer my clients. And really, it's you getting aligned with source to be able to know what to do yourself is kind of like the big picture of when we work together. But it's really you developing that spiritual connection and uncovering your intuition, learning how to tune into your soul and have that sort of like express growth. So when we work together with the quantum aspect, I right away ask people, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to feel? Because some people, as you know, some people aren't like specific manifestors. Like, I need $5,000. There's a lot of people I see that they just want ease, and they just want freedom, and they just want joy. So on the quantum way, I'm right away helping you access that now, so we can start manifesting that quickly. And then other than that, it's just, giving people the tools to be able to bring this into their life and to develop spiritually and get really connected with their spirit team. I really look at it like the whole give a man a fish or teach them to fish thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm here to teach you to fish, to develop your own magical spiritual connection, show you how to manifest, and then like send you on your magical way.
Yes. And I love the empowerment aspect of it too, because those are really, in my opinion, the best healers, the best mentors that say, hey, I gave you tools, I gave you guidance, but you can do it. You're the co-creator, right? This is your life. So that really helps any client that I've seen not feel so weak, not feel so dependent on someone else, something else, but just to use it as a guide for them to do the work. It's a totally different way to look at it.
It totally is. And I think it's really important for people to understand the law of attraction. That is a big part of what I teach. It's like the foundation. It's kind of like, okay, so this is how this experience works. And I feel like with one-on-ones, I'm kind of constantly reminding them of that because we all need that, right? Like my mentors sometimes are saying like the same thing in different ways the whole time. And then one day I'm like, I get it, you know? So I am also really focused on teaching them co-creation, like how we can physically manifest something into our life, as well as heal and rise and make the money and all the other things that we want.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said law of attraction is really the foundation because that's how I got started in this whole metaphysical world too, was through, I know someone you follow as well, Abraham Hicks. When I stumbled upon her on her famous YouTube videos, that opened up a whole door or rabbit hole, I should say, in the best way, because once I really understood that, and we're talking deeper than The Secret, of course, like you mentioned earlier. I always say The Secret, that's like the prelogue or something that's like before the intro even. But really, if you really follow her teachings, and also Wayne Dyer, who you follow, I know, rest in peace, but all of those people too, then that is a really good foundation that you can build off of. And I remember even a few years ago, I got to see Abraham live. And that it was just, she's just such a pure conduit that it was a really interesting experience just to see it in person, just her coming, channeling the messages for people. And you're just like, wow, you're just absolutely blown away. So yeah, she's someone that I think I've read all of her books, and once I got her, then it was like I was hungry for more. It's like, okay, what's next? I'm next ready for the next step.
That's amazing. That also means you're here for big stuff, because if Abraham was one of your first stepping stones, I know that there was a lot before that, but that just like, that's high level, consistent truth right there. And I find that sometimes it takes people a while, or they hear her and it's like, it's kind of intense, especially the old stuff with like the accents and like, it's a little bit intense. But if you can be there with her and really take that in, it's the most powerful, like straight to the goods type of thing. And I actually just listened to some today. I often listen to her just even 5 minutes to like pump me up, because I just agree so much with the messages that come through her. It's incredible.
Yeah, I really always resonated with her, and I get the daily emails, like, whoa, it's like a quote from the 90s, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so true still today. And I'm always like writing down her quotes in my journal so that I remember it better. And there's some quotes I've written down the same thing like 5 times when I'm flipping through it, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought this is like my first time hearing it or something, because it just was so profound. I'm like, oh, I need to write that down, but I've already thought it was profound so many times.
Yeah.
So that's always been crazy to me too. She's like the only person I can really say that I've had that experience with.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Okay, great. And then I know we've talked about evolution, how you've, pivoted your business already, several times. What do you foresee for the future? Is there anything that you're like, man, I really want to try that next, or I've been learning this? What do you foresee?
Well, I'm really getting into like quantum alchemy right now, and I haven't even publicly spoken about it, but I've been experimenting on some very willing past clients and friends about like transforming and transmuting your stuff on the spot, bringing in healing right now, right here, because I believe that not only am I fully capable, all of us are, but it's within my gifts to be able to do that. It's so big and bold that I've had to grow into that place. So that's something that I'm really excited about. I have a workshop coming up just next week. So by the time this releases, it'll be done, but where I'm practicing this on groups and on the spot. Which is really exciting. Also, I do have a book that is waiting to be birthed. And for a long time, this is also just a little helpful tidbit. For a long time, I was like, why aren't you writing the book? You just need to set aside time, just do it. And lately, I really realized that 3 years ago, I couldn't have written the book that is meant to
Yeah,
come through
right.
me. So it's like really, it's leading edge. And all of a sudden I've just had this patience of like, ooh, the book, it's starting to be, it's like, I feel like the gestation period is getting bigger and I'm like ready to start soon. And I feel like once it starts, it's just going to come. So that's definitely coming up next for me, as well as workshops. And yeah, this alchemy on the spot, I'm really excited about.
Cool. Yeah, so you heard it here first, folks, about the book, about alchemy. And then yes,
Yeah.
I like how you said alchemy transmutation, because that's what it is, the alchemist transmutation.
Yeah.
So yes, that's very interesting. Yeah, that really is, I would say, next level stuff too. Because once you hit that, you're like, oh my God, it was this, but now it's that, but it's the same thing, but it's not. Yes, it's very intriguing to me as well. Okay, great. And then was there anything that, we didn't get to that you wanted to let the audience know?
Hmm. Well, I think that the intuition piece is really important when it comes to manifestation, and it's like getting to know your inner guide, because intuition is your inner guide speaking to you, but it's the way that the universe speaks to you. It's kind of like, I like to teach it like, if you go to Spain and you don't speak Spanish, it's really hard to get around. You could maybe be like, where's the washroom? You're talking really loud, big hand movements, but it's hard to manage. It's hard to have a relationship. It's hard to communicate. So your intuition is the language that source is speaking to you. I mean, there's also signs and signals, but our inner guide is it. That is it. So I really believe in developing your intuition so that you know what is right for you and what is not right for you. And something that Abraham does teach that I think is so important to recognize is that your emotions are your guiding system. So
Yes.
when something doesn't feel right, it's like, why are you dicking around? We got to honor that, make a
Mhm.
choice, go with it, trust in it, and see what happens. And I think that journey, that's why I think The Secret and all the other things, like sometimes it's not just like attracts like, it's not just what I think about I attract, because the way that the universe is coming back to you and offering you guidance. So say I'm praying for more money, I'm going to get this nudge, this ping, this idea to be like, ooh, I should put out a program that's this, or I should connect with that person. That's the way the money will come generally. It's through this guidance system. So if you're trying to manifest, you're wanting to co-create, you're practicing quantum manifestation, if you're being her in this moment, you will be receiving intuitive nudges to be like, she would go out for a walk right now instead of hunched over the computer getting more scrunchy. Or she would say yes to that friend that's saying, hey, I have someone I can set you up with on a blind date. The small us, the scared us goes, no, no, no. But maybe the intuition is saying, do it. Right. So I think that is such an important piece when it comes to manifestation and creating the life that you're meant for, is to recognize that you have an inner guide and learning to hear it, or whatever your type is. I teach about intuitive types, receive it, that feeling, that nudge, and then practicing acting on it. That's a huge part, because action is what actually calls manifestation into this life. We can't sit on the couch and pray for a Lamborghini. In fact, if we do and we put out like, who is the her that has a Lamborghini, we can do that and the universe will be rearranging the pieces. But what actually allows it to get into our garage or get into our life is some sort of action. We have to enter a draw. We have to look at the classifieds. We have to go to the Lamborghini car dealership and just check it out. That's that piece that actually allows it to materialize in your life. So much of the work is energetic, but that last piece, and also the piece that kind of moves it along, is going to come from those things that feel right. And just the last thing I want to say is, it doesn't always make sense, right?
Mm.
So maybe with the Lamborghini, you're driving home from work and you just get this feeling, I'm going to drive a different way to work. And it's like, the mind will be like, why would you do that? There might be traffic, or, but maybe it's taking you right by the car dealership. And maybe as you go by, there's one of those flaily tube mans and you see a big sign that says Lamborghini's on sale today, or whatever. That is what actually allows it to come into your experience. So for all of you listening, make sure to be paying attention to that inner guide. That's going to be the thing that whether you have like concrete goals or not, that inner guide is always guiding you to the highest outcome for you and everyone around you. So that's like the most important, I believe, the most important thing you can do to live the life of joy and abundance and freedom that you want is to pay attention to inside what feels good and what doesn't feel good.
Yes, well put. And I like that you said it is different for everybody, right? And just knowing how the guides are speaking to you. Yes, getting into that feeling state. And also, yeah, getting rid of the fear and trusting yourself. Because I cannot emphasize enough that my most accurate intuitive messages and the messages that came through me in the most clear manner were when I fully trusted myself. And I wasn't scared to say a message that totally didn't make sense. You know, I wasn't scared to say, man, I keep getting like this visual of a foot. That sounds kind of weird. But the person was like, oh, I was thinking about going to podiatry school. So it makes sense for them. And then I got a really good message for them, you know? So yeah, that trust that you said, wiping away that fear and knowing again of what it feels like when you are getting that intuitive nudge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And then Talia, you know, where can we find you if someone does want to work with you one-on-one? I'll of course link everything in the show notes as well, but if you could just kind of let us know.
Yeah, definitely. So taliajoymanifestation.com is my website. And that kind of is like, has it all. And if you do want to work together, you can contact me through the website. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Talia Joy Manifestation. But I also invite you to come check out the podcast. So that's the Awakening Her podcast. And we have incredible guests, lots of solo episodes, all about manifestation, intuitive development, soul's purpose, all this stuff and more. So come check that out as well. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook too.
Perfect. Well, Talia, I want to thank you again. It was such a joy, no pun intended. It was such a joy to have you. And yeah, I just think it was a great stimulating conversation that a lot of people are going to enjoy.
Yay. Thank you so much for having this platform and inviting me here. I'm so honored to be here.
Of course. Okay, and that's another great example on how spirituality and the use of different methods and teachings can really make great changes in your daily life. As always, if you are looking for a way to relieve stress and anxious thoughts or looking to gain some clarity, you can always book a Reiki energy healing or Akashic Records reading session with me at thenewAgeGoddess.com. Much love and namaste.
Bye.